There were 120 runners in a 5K fun run last year. This is the total number of runners that we're referring to. This year, the number of runners was 15% more than last year. That percent is referring to 15% of the 120. So on my line diagram, I draw 0 to 100%. 120 runners is the total number of runners last year. 15%, I sketch where but that would be. It's a smaller percentage, less than 50%. 15% is the increase in the number of runners this year compared to last year. That's why this 120 is the total. That is what we're comparing this 15, basing this 15% on. Above the 15%, I have an X. That's going to represent the number of runners that 15% would be. The question, how many people ran in the fun run this year, means I'm looking for the new total. So that 15% will be that many more than last year. Now that I have my diagram set up, I'm going to calculate. I'll set up my equations. First, I'm going to use the 15% that was in the story. This is the increase in the number of runners compared to last year. So 15% of 120 runners, my multiplier is 0.15 times 120 gives me 18. So if 18 is this value of X up here, it is the number of runners that represents 15%, which is that increase from last year's total. So 18 isn't the final answer. 18 needs to be added on to 120. 120 runners last year plus 18 more equals 138 runners this year. That's one way to solve it. Another way would be looking at my line diagram. I extended a piece right here to represent adding on that 15%, which really means it's 115% would be the number of runners that ran this year. So I'm going to write that equation or that expression here, 115% of 120. My decimal multiplier for 115% is 1.15. 1 for the 100% and 0.15 for the 15%. So 1.15 is 115%. Multiply that by 120, and that gives me exactly that 138. The same number that I ended up with here once I added on the 15%. Either strategy works. Adding the 15% on right away to the 100%, or finding the 15% and then adding that many runners on to that 100% total. Either way, I get 138 runners is the total that ran this year.